I didn't want to be a doctor. I didn't want to be a lawyer. I didn't want to be a dentist. I didn't want to be, I wanted to play ball.
He called and he said, "You want to be a Ram?" I said, "Sure." And then I said, "Oh, shoot. This team was 4-12.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
Wide receiver is a position dependent on surroundings, and sometimes these surroundings are better than they appear. Joining a 4-12 team that hasn't had a winning record in nearly a decade feels like it's going to be a long haul, but that was not the case for Torry Holt. For Torry Holt, he joined the Rams right when they were going to take the league by storm. And let me tell you, his career wasn't just great, it was legendary. He joined an offense that was going to become known as the greatest show on turf, and he formed one half of the best receiving duo ever. I might be biased, but prove I'm wrong. I mean it. What two wide receivers had a better run than Isaac Bruce and Torry Holt?
Don't worry, I'll wait.
Despite putting up Hall of Fame caliber numbers, Holt's name barely comes up in the conversation about the best wide receivers of all time. And worse yet, he's often overlooked as the best pass catcher of the 2000s. I mean, he's not even in the Hall of Fame at the time of this video. Let me ask you this. How does a guy who was at the time of his retirement 10th all-time in receiving yards, 13th all-time in receptions, and a Super Bowl winner not get in after 10 times of being up for the Hall of Fame?
What do you think's keeping you out?
I'm not sure.
Maybe it's because he was mentored by another one of the players covered in this series. But then again, that's why I'm making this series, to appreciate superstar players who didn't get the shine they rightly deserved.
In this lifetime, you don't have to prove nothing to nobody except yourself.
Welcome back to Unlikely Success. Like, comment, and if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. Today, we're here to shed some light on Torry Holt's incredible career and make the case for why he deserves far more recognition, and probably to be in the Hall of Fame. Before we get into all the details, let's set the tone for what's to come. Prior to him, no receiver has ever opened their career with a better 9-year run than Torry Holt did, at least from a yardage production standpoint. He even beat the clear wide receiver GOAT, Jerry Rice. I just wanted to mention this so we could set the tone. Now, let's get into why he was overlooked and why it's so crazy that he doesn't have a gold jacket. Torry Holt's journey to NFL stardom began in college at North Carolina State, where he was a standout wide receiver. By the time he left college, he was regarded as one of the best wideout prospects in the country and considered a pro-ready player. In the 1999 NFL Draft, the St. Louis Rams selected him 6th overall. This set him up perfectly to be a key piece for a team that was about to take the league by surprise. And take it by surprise, they did. The Rams offense was led by Kurt Warner, Marshall Faulk, and the perfect mentor for a young wide receiver, Isaac Bruce. All of this allowed for the talented rookie to be utilized perfectly as they morphed into the greatest show on turf. Holt would immediately live up to his pre-draft hype, posting over 780 receiving yards and 6 touchdowns in his rookie season. All of this while playing a major part in helping the Rams win a Super Bowl. Those stats may seem modest, because they are, but remember, he was rarely the first or even the second option on a high-powered offense, and he was a rookie, a talented one, sure, but it still takes time to adjust to the NFL, even if you were considered a pro-ready prospect and not a development project. Torry would go on to earn the nickname Big Game for his clutch performances when things mattered the most.
I'm the man. Big game, man. I got big game.
In that Super Bowl just mentioned a moment ago, he caught 7 passes for 109 yards and a touchdown, proving that he was ready for the brightest stage, even at his young age. What followed Holt's rookie year was a stretch of dominance that few receivers in NFL history have ever been close to, and none had matched. From 2000 to 2007, he recorded 8 straight seasons with over 1,000 receiving yards, including 6 seasons with at least 1,300 yards. Not bad for a guy who was the third option in his rookie year. Holt wasn't just padding stats though. He became the best player on the Rams offense. He led the NFL in receiving yards twice, including a monstrous 1,696-yard campaign in 2003. Between 2000 and 2009, Holt accumulated more receiving yards than any player in the league. More than Randy Moss, more than Terrell Owens. It's an extremely impressive accomplishment when you look back at who was in the league playing wide receiver during the 2000s. It's even more impressive when you consider that he did most of this with Mark Bulger, not Kurt Warner. Yeah, I know, it feels like Warner, Falk, Bruce, and Holt played together for a decade, but in actuality, it was essentially a 3-year run. Holt, however, would continue on long after the Greatest Show on Turf era faded. And I believe this is why he doesn't always receive the shine that he deserves, because unfortunately, as the team moved further into the 2000s, their fortunes turned. After their 2 Super Bowl runs, the team slowly fell into mediocrity, and Holt's brilliance became harder and harder to see on losing teams. He signed a 7-year, $42 million deal in 2003, and this would make him part of the long-term plans for a team that was quickly fading into obscurity. By the end of 2004, the Rams were no longer contenders, and anyone that was still hoping for the Greatest Show on Turf era to return realized it wasn't likely. Holt continued to produce at an elite level though. Even as the team struggled, he was the fastest player ever to 10,000 receiving yards, and the fastest player to 11,000. But it didn't matter to a larger audience of football fans, because without team success, the stats felt empty. This left the accomplishments to go underappreciated by most non-Ram fans. And that's a true shame, because Holt is an all-time great.
Oh, it's true.
It's damn true.
He had been mentored by Isaac Bruce, and he knew what a winning culture looked like, so he never became the type of player to make big waves with antics. And honestly, given the state of the Rams in the back half of the 2000s, it's impressive he didn't just quit on the team like Moss did in Oakland, or make a trade request to remove himself from a crumbling organization. But that's why Holt is part of this series. He was not the type of player who would do that. Instead, he continued to be productive and do his part to help the team win, even if it wasn't working. After a decade with the Rams, he would request and be granted his release on March 13th, 2009. It was a sad day as a Rams fan, and only 1 year removed from Isaac Bruce leaving. Torry would spend one final season with the Jacksonville Jaguars in 2009, before quietly retiring after a knee injury that occurred prior to the 2010 season. He finished his career with 920 receptions, 13,382 receiving yards, and 74 touchdowns. These are numbers that rival many Hall of Fame receivers, and honestly, they're better than quite a few. Despite his impressive resume, Holt has yet to be inducted to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Year after year, he's been a finalist, but he hasn't crossed the metaphorical finish line, which leaves many of us Rams fans scratching our heads, because he definitely should be in. So, what is it that made Holt so special, you might be asking? Well, first, it's his consistency and the approach to the game. Few players in NFL history have maintained such a high level of production over a decade. Yardage-wise, none had ever been as impressive before him. Holt can only be described as a true technician, running precise routes and making difficult catches look routine, and he became a leader on and off the field, embodying professionalism in every aspect of his career. Secondly, his impact on the game. It might seem like Holt was just a piece of the Greatest Show on Turf, but he was much more than that. He was the driving force at wide receiver on all of the teams after the Super Bowl win in '99. And that's no small feat, considering that his running mate at wide receiver was Hall of Famer Isaac Bruce. Holt's ability to stretch the field and dominate in crucial moments helped make the Rams the Greatest Show on Turf, and he helped make them nearly impossible to stop. Finally, his humility.
If I could get somewhere close to Isaac and Ricky and Marshall in terms of their production, in terms of their mentality, if I could just get halfway there, we're a better team.
Right.
I'm a better player. So it was more about me wanting to get my level up to theirs to elevate our team. And I knew if I did that, then I knew I was going to be pretty good.
Holt didn't seek the spotlight or stir up drama. He let his game do all the talking, which unfortunately might be contributing to his underappreciation. Remember, during his time with the Rams, he outpaced stars like Randy Moss, Chad Ochocinco, Terrell Owens, and many others that you would call greats. But as the 2000s wore on, his team's success wore out. Losing sucks, and it leads to fans forgetting about players who put in high-quality work. Torry Holt's career is that of a Hall of Famer in my eyes. He has 7 Pro Bowl seasons, 2 All-Pro teams, 1 Super Bowl ring, and as I have mentioned, at the time of his retirement, he was the fastest player to 10 and 11,000 yards. He's top 20 in receiving yards as it stands now, top 25 in receptions, and he carried himself with class throughout his career. Holt showed up big in the playoffs and continued to be productive through the tough times for his franchise. Sometimes the best players are the ones who simply show up, do their job, and let their performance speak for them. This has been the unlikely success.
So you get to St. Louis in 1999. There's Isaac Bruce. There's a guy who's established. And here's Torry Holt we just drafted. How do you go about being respectful to the guy that's there and also saying, this is my time?
I think for one, the way I was raised was always to respect those that came before me. Even when I went to my freshman year at NC State, I carried that same mentality into the National Football League. But at the same time, I was very confident and very sure who I was as a football player. So I was never intimidated or overwhelmed by Isaac or Ricky and those guys' presence, though I respected their presence. But I knew I was just as good.